Richard, let's kick off with Glaxo. How big an impact is this on the company, or is it still too soon to tell?
It's rather early to tell at this stage. I mean, obviously it comes on the back of what's been happening in China. It was a very short announcement from the company this morning saying that the SFO would be conducting an investigation into its commercial practices. Share price down about 1.5%. That'll be factoring in an element of uncertainty until such time investors know exactly what the outcome of the investigation is going to be.
Okay, at the same time, almost $2 billion have been wiped off its market share today. Doesn't that suggest to you that investors are concerned?
Well, as I say, it's the old adage about investors hating uncertainty. As and when the outcome of the investigation is known and any potential censures or indeed fines, at least at that point it can be quantified and investors can deal with it. Whilst it's overhanging, rather like the Chinese situation at the moment, it's much more difficult to quantify. That injects uncertainty into investors' minds, and you've obviously seen the resultant weakness in the share price today.
Now, Glaxo shares are down, as you rightly say, but it's pretty mixed across the pharma sector today. Does this mean that the other pharmaceutical companies won't be implicated in this probe?
It's, again, rather early to say. It's surprising that there seems to have been very little read across from this announcement, so we'll obviously find out as the investigation unravels as to whether this is something that's company specific to Glaxo or whether it's rather more widespread, not only in terms of the SFO investigation but also as a result of the Chinese deliberations. But for the moment, investors aren't putting two and two together to make four in terms of the pharmaceutical sector as a whole.
The other story making headlines today is Siemens versus GE, both coming out saying their rival bids, are the right ones for Alstom. Who do you think will come up trumps?
Yeah, they seem to be neck and neck at the moment, which wasn't necessarily the case just a few weeks ago. It's now interesting that it may come down to a question of politics and whether the French government gets involved to the extent that they prefer a European bidder or a US bidder. But ultimately, of course, the decision should rest with the board of the recipient company itself rather than any political influence, although sometimes that's easier said than done, of course.